Discover the divine truth, what the Bible reveals about cremation and God's transforming plan. In the land of Uz, during the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, there lived a man named Job, blameless and upright, who feared God and turned away from evil. He was the father of many sons and daughters and had gathered great wealth, thousands of sheep and camels, countless oxen and donkeys, and a multitude of servants. The sun shone over his household, illuminating lives filled with prosperity, feasts, and the echo of joyous laughter. Amidst his abundant blessings, Job remained vigilant in his faith. He would rise early to offer sacrifices on behalf of his children, fearing that they might have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Yet, a murmur traveled through the ethereal halls of heaven. A divine council convened, presenting matters of celestial intrigue. Satan, the accuser, stood before Yahweh, cunningly challenging Job's loyalty. Does Job fear God for nothing? He hissed, implying that Job's faith was but a facade, a mere reflection of his wealth and blessings. With a grave permission granted, the stage was set for a tumult that would reverberate throughout Job's life. In the days that followed, catastrophe struck like lightning. Bandits swooped down from the wilderness, stealing the cattle and servants Job cherished. The heavens unleashed fury upon the earth as a great storm arose, collapsing the home where his children had gathered, taking their lives in an instant. Bereft of his wealth and his beloved offspring, Job found himself surrounded by desolation, the very essence of his existence swallowed by despair. As days stretched into a mournful haze, Job sat in the ashes of his former life, his body afflicted with grievous sores. His heart ached, his mind wrestled with tormenting thoughts of finality. What comes after this life? Echoed in his soul, woven with the haunting customs of his ancestors. The practice of cremation loomed before him, foreign yet familiar, provoking unsettling questions about remembrance and honor in death. In the solitude of his suffering, Job clung to the remnants of faith. Defiantly, he proclaimed, "For I know that my Redeemer lives." Despite probing doubts and the cries of his spirit, Job remembered the covenant of the Lord. The promise of resurrection breathed life into his despair. "After my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God," he declared, a flicker of hope igniting within his heart. But then, 3 friends arrived: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, seeking to comfort him. Instead of solace, they decried his character, suggesting his plight was punishment for hidden sins. As their words echoed around him, Job felt the gnawing despair deepen, driving him to question his integrity against their accusations, a storm brewing within as fierce as that outside his door. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the winds howled and darkness enveloped him, Job was left with more questions than answers. What would become of his body? Would he turn to ashes and be forgotten? Yet within this grief emerged an unwavering conviction: his faith would not be defined by circumstances beyond his control. The promise of God's redemptive purpose lingered, teasing the edge of unveiling what was left of his soul that yearned for divine acknowledgement. Would God's plan unfold in this abyss of sorrow, or would silence reign? Indeed, the tension mounted, as Job's heart battled against the echoes of despair, silently begging for the unfolding of God's glorious response. Then Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. "Let the day perish on which I was born," he lamented, "and the night that said, 'A boy is conceived.' Why did I not perish at birth, and die as I came from the womb?" Job 3 verse 1-3 NIV. In his agony, he wished for the darkness to swallow him, for life itself felt like an unbearable weight. The despair engulfed him like a thick fog, rendering clarity distant and hope barely a whisper. His friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, found no words of comfort, rather, their voices rose as instruments of accusation. Each one sought to unravel the mystery of Job's suffering, probing deep into his heart with questions meant to expose hidden sin. Is not your wickedness great? Challenged Eliphaz, your sin is vast. Job 22 verse 5. With each query, Job felt the walls of judgment close in around him, leaving no space for his cries of innocence. Yet, amidst the turmoil, Job's spirit wrestled with the truth. Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him, I will surely defend my ways to his face. Job 13 verse 15, NIV. In his chaotic world, fragments of faith remained, and he pleaded for understanding, uttering the cries of the righteous demanding a hearing before God. I desire to speak to the Almighty and to argue my case before God. Job 13 verse 3, NIV. Days blurred into nights, and Job's heart waned with uncertainty. Would the heavens remain indifferent to his plight? In a surreal vision, he imagined the throne of God, elevated among the stars, yet he feared that the distance was insurmountable. Where then is my hope? He pondered aloud, stretching out his hand toward the abyss. For in that moment, questioning the very fabric of hope became an act of desperation, yet he anchored himself to the memory of God's faithfulness throughout his lineage. Then it was Bildad who spoke, bringing forth ancient wisdom, declaring, if you are pure and upright, even now he will rouse himself on your behalf and restore you to your prosperous state. Job 8 verse 6, NIV. Yet Job felt trapped within false assertions, longing to navigate his own path through the ruins of his past. But how can mere mortals prove their innocence before God? He asked, his heart aching under the weight of truth. As the shadows of despair persisted, Job resolved to seek God, knowing that he must withstand the fire of his trials to emerge as refined gold. He pondered the message of hope woven within the fibers of creation, the very earth that trembled beneath him, holding the promise of resurrection, even through death. What is mankind that you make so much of them, that you give them so much attention? He cried in silence wrapped in his pain. Job 7 verse 17, NIV. In this tumultuous exchange, the divine awaited a sacred moment. A hidden depth lay beneath Job's turmoil, whispering of a greater revelation yet to come. The promise of his Redeemer lingered like incense in the air, hinting at a grander plan unfolding just beyond his grasp. As Job struggled against the darkness, the heavens stirred, readying to unveil God's sovereign purpose in their midst. For what Job could not yet comprehend, the divine tapestry of history was being woven tighter. The time had not yet come for the earth to witness the contours of God's grace. Little did he know, the mystique of God's sovereign plan would soon begin to manifest, revealing truths that even the mightiest accuser dared not anticipate. As the days grew heavy upon Job's weary soul, a stillness fell across the land, and the weight of silence hung in the air like the calm before a storm. The relentless questioning of his friends pressed upon him, and Job sat amidst the ashes of his heart, longing for an audience with the Almighty. Why must I endure this suffering? He cried into the void. Does not the Lord see my anguish? Is there not justice in this world? In his lament, the heavens remained unyielding, and Job's thoughts spiraled into despair as he uttered the words that seemed to carry the weight of eternity. I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. Job 19 verse 25, NIV. The truth of his own heart drew near to him, echoing within as he spoke those words of faith, which pierced through the chaos like a beacon of light shining in the night. Then, as if the angels themselves leaned to hear, Elihu, the younger of the friends, stepped forth, speaking with a voice that vibrated with inspiration. Hear me, you men of understanding, the Almighty does not despise men, he does not take his eyes off the righteous. Job 36 verse 7, NIV. His words carried a boldness that startled Job, who had dismissed the comfort offered by those he once called friends. Do you not see, Elihu continued, how God reproves us to pull us back from the brink and restore our souls? In that moment it was as if the darkness was pierced by a shaft of light, for Elihu continued to address the depths of Job's suffering. For he wounds, but he also binds up, he injures, but his hands also heal. Job 5 verse 18, NIV. Job felt a stirring within, a flicker of hope ignited as he clung to the promise that God's hand was still at work. Can you find the depths of God? Can you discover the limits of the Almighty? Elihu challenged, and Job's heart tremored at the inquiry. As the words settled in the depths of his spirit, a divine weight pressed upon him. Job was reminded of the great beyond that stretched even behind his suffering. The darkness of his current trial could not overshadow the light of faith that flickered within him, urging him onward. To plunge into despair is to forsake the beauty of what resides in the heart of God, and the mysteries he unfolds in the journey of our trials. Elihu's voice resounded, from the edge of the abyss. Job found his spirit rising. He understood that even when the tempest raged, God was orchestrating a greater purpose unseen. Behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. Job 23 verse 8, NIV. As shadows clouded his vision, Job realized the profound truth that enveloped him, that God's presence clung to him through pain, a comfort amidst the chaos that it was then, in the core of his suffering, that the revelation began to sharpen. Job's heart swelled as he thought of the Redeemer who would emerge from the ashes, a promise not merely for him but for all generations. God's plan writhed beneath the surface, stirring with the power of resurrection rising above despair, an echo of hope anticipating the dawn. Within that swelling of faith, the clouds of doubt began to part. Job stood firm in the face of his adversity, yearning for clarity, his faith fortified against the raging storms. For he perceived that something profound was forging within him, a deeper knowledge of God that would someday be revealed in a tapestry far richer than he could envision. Little did he know, the whisper of hope was only the beginning, as the time approached for the full manifestation of God's sovereign purpose to be unveiled, breathing life into the very dust of creation. As Job wrestled with the pangs of understanding, the atmosphere thickened, heavy with an impending revelation. Elihu, having spoken with a boldness that reverberated through the desolate place, paused for a moment, allowing his words to settle on Job, who now felt as if the winds of truth were stirring around him. The young man's voice carried the weight of divine insight, shaking the foundations of Job's despair. "Listen, dear Job," Elihu resumed, "the Almighty is not silent in your suffering. He speaks through the storms and the shadows, bringing forth wisdom even from the depths of anguish. His word settled like dew on parched ground, refreshing Job's spirit. He may hide his face, but he is still present, weaving his purposes in the fabric of your trials." Job held fast to this perspective, pondering the depth of God's design that often lay hidden. "I have searched for him," he replied, his voice trembling with the resonance of faith's struggle. "I have sought him in my pain, but my heart fears I may never understand." "Ah, but there is a purpose even in this," Elihu responded fervently. "For God is not indifferent to our cries. He refines us as silver, testing and purifying our hearts that we may emerge as gold." Job's heart leaped within him at the imagery, for he knew the promise of resurrection lay in the transforming nature of suffering. In the quiet that followed, the skies outside seemed to change, clouds gathering darker yet filled with unspoken power, as though the heavens were preparing to unveil the sacred dialogue. Job, filled with anticipation, turned his gaze toward the horizon, yearning for a manifestation of his Creator. Yet, all at once, the tumult of Job's own inner battle clashed with external silence. Bold yet alarming, a storm emerged in the distance, drawing near. The wind whipped around him, rustling the ashes at his feet ejected from his mourning. "Why do you come, tempest?" Job exclaimed, raising his voice as if to call God forth amidst chaos. "Bring forth your explanation if you desire me to endure this trial." Suddenly, the clouds heaved, and a thunderous voice broke through. It was as if the very fabric of creation itself resonated with divine authority. "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge?" the voice declared, echoing through the valley of despair, shaking the remnants of Job's resolve. In that bold proclamation, Elihu's countenance shifted, aware of the magnitude about to unfold. Job felt a tremor deep within, as if his soul was laid bare before the Almighty. The voice continued, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand." Job 38 verse 4, NIV. Job's spirit quaked, as the answer beneath the surface of suffering began to surface amidst majesty and mystery. The stars shone brightly overhead as moments passed in profound silence, wrapped in anticipation. Elihu's eyes widened, realizing that the path Job yearned to understand would deepen beyond comprehension. At that moment, Job grasped the promise spoken through Elihu that through pain, there was purpose, and in darkness, there was light. Indeed, my Redeemer lives, he whispered. And a revelation beyond the shadows is coming forth. Little did Job comprehend that the answers he sought would not merely justify his pain, instead, they would unveil a tapestry of God's sovereign design that transcended generations. A greater story of redemption was unfolding, one that intertwined with the very fabric of his life, breathing hope into the valley of suffering. As Elihu took a step back, the swirling winds and darkened skies loomed, and the epoch of divine engagement was on the verge of revealing the profound truth of God's redemptive purpose. The time was approaching when Job would discover not simply answers for his suffering, but a revelation of the Almighty's intricate plans unfolding throughout the ages, leaving Job teetering on the edge of divine truth. Then, as the echoes of that profound question faded into the weighty silence, Job stood on the precipice of an overwhelming encounter, feeling both small and yet uniquely significant in the presence of the Almighty. Unable to articulate his bewilderment, his spirit yearned for understanding. The voice of the Lord, imperious and yet laced with divine compassion, continued to unfold the mysteries of creation, unveiling the majesty of his handiwork. Have you ever commanded the morning, Job? Have you ever caused the dawn to know its place? Job 38 verse 12, NIV. Each inquiry pierced Job's heart yet lifted his gaze toward the heavens. Every syllable dripped with wisdom, as if reminding him that the Creator held dominion over every facet of existence. No, my Lord, Job murmured, his eyes transfixed upon the swirling tempest. I have not. He felt the reality of his limitations flood over him like a rushing tide, washing away pretense and pride. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. The voice boomed once more. Or who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set, or who laid its cornerstone, while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Job 38 verses 5-7, NIV. With each rhetorical question, the enormity of God's creations washed over Job. He saw the breadth of the universe, heard the chorus of the stars, and sensed the hand that balanced the earth. In that moment, every doubt he held began to dissolve within the illuminating truth of God's wisdom and purpose. Elihu stepped forward, feeling ignited by the very presence of God as he witnessed Job wrestling with the profound truths cascading through the storm. Job, he urged gently, let yourself be absorbed by this knowledge. What you cannot comprehend is still under his jurisdiction. Sometimes our minds cannot soar where our souls are meant to trust. The storm began to swirl with tremendous intensity, reflecting the inner turmoil and gloriously breathtaking truth colliding within Job's heart. He felt the gravity of Elihu's words, the reverberations of the Almighty's call rang louder than ever. As he listened, he found himself yielding not just to the power of impending revelation, but to the peace that only divine understanding could bestow. So, tell me, Job, God's voice thundered, is it at your command that the hawk soars, and spreads its wings toward the south? Job 39 verse 26, NIV. The question exploded before Job, inviting him to observe the splendor of creation. The hawk, regal and unbounded, flew with purpose, guided by instincts that Job realized he could neither create nor control. Job fell to his knees, overwhelmed. Lord, you are beyond my grasp, beyond my understanding, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper against the roar of the storm. I am but dust and ashes, yet you regard me in my weakness. Meanwhile, Elihu stood awestruck, witnessing the transformational journey unfolding before him, a moment of surrender that he had longed for arduous hours. In this haunting stillness, Job began to grasp that his suffering transcended earthly understanding. It possessed a depth designed for divine glory. The winds swirled, and thunder crackled with intensity as God spoke once more. Can you fathom the mysteries of God? Can you probe the limits of the Almighty? Job 11 verse 7, NIV. The question reverberated deep, shaking the very core of all that Job understood. In that electric moment, the skies above shifted from foreboding gray to a brilliant display of light. Job could feel the sunlight penetrating through the clouds, symbolizing hope breaking free. None could foresee the outcome of this divine exchanges that were to cascade through the ages. Even more compelling was the sacred truth converging around Job's heart that through sorrow, the Almighty was constructing a pathway leading not only to healing for Job but a legacy of faith for generations to come. And as Elihu and Job remained in awe of the storm's divine confluence, a realization dawned: the Almighty's sovereign plan was only beginning to unfold, threaded intricately into an eternal narrative of redemption that would echo through the annals of time. The question loomed larger: how would Job's journey culminate in a revelation that could shape destinies yet unseen? Then the voice of the Lord resounded again, filling the expanse with a power that transcended comprehension. Job, you have considered the hawk, now behold the behemoth. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook, or tie down its tongue with a cord? Job 41 verse 1, NIV. As the monsters of the deep were invoked, Job's heart quaked at the thought of such creatures, reminiscent of the untamable forces of the cosmos and the divine majesty that commanded them. Elihu, still in the shadow of the divine presence, listened intently. His chest heaved as he perceived the mighty weight of the narrative being woven around them. "Oh, that you would see this revelation, Job," he exclaimed. "Behold, he who is more fearsome than the greatest beast and yet more tender than the softest breeze." Job's mind whirled with incomprehensible truths. "Lord, I know not what to say," he murmured, his heart surrendering before the awe-inspiring vision of God. Each fearsome question called forth a realization of the inadequacy of human wisdom before the Creator of all. Who can open the doors of its mouth, ringed about with fearsome teeth? The Lord continued, his voice as fierce as the storm itself. Its back has rows of shields, tightly sealed together. They are so close together that no air can pass between them. Job 41 verses 14 to 16, NIV. The vivid imagery stung Job's thoughts, unveiling the glory of creation interwoven with God's sovereignty. As the dust of the earth swirled around, it carried a fresh whisper from the Almighty's heart, stirring within Job the ancient wisdom of humility. "You see, Job, even Leviathan is under my dominion. He is part of my great design, a beast of the sea whose very nature reflects my control over all, even the seemingly wild." Job was silent, aware of his own frailty amidst the grandeur and terror of God's power. Waves of understanding crashed upon him. "Lord, your thoughts are beyond mine. I remain but a shadow in your light." As he surrendered, the torment of his conditions began to pale in comparison to the magnificence of the Lord's revelation, the transformation of suffering into a testament of trust. In the din of the tempest, Elihu could hardly contain himself. "Job, do you not see? This is the riddle and the blessing. Your trials are not mere woes, they are a forge of divine purpose. What you endure does not escape his notice, it is intricately woven into the fabric of his providence." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, and an ethereal peace settled upon Job's heart. The tumult of the storm mirrored the upheaval within him, a storm of doubt giving way to a clarity rooted in faith. "O God! You have spoken worlds into existence, and yet you bear witness to my plight," he cried, feeling the embrace of the Almighty's care wrap around his spirit. As the tempest began to wane, Job looked upwards, beholding the shimmering rays of sunlight emerging through the clouds, illuminating the horizon with golden promise. Even Leviathan could not withstand the brilliance of God's sovereign hand. "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you," declared Job, his spirit renewed. "I repent in dust and ashes." Job 42 verses 5 to 6, NIV. In this moment of unmatched revelation, the fabric of Job's heart was reshaped, setting the stage for an unfolding legacy, a legacy enormous in scope, harmonizing God's justice and grace. Yet, as he stood transformed, a sovereign mystery loomed in the atmosphere. The echoes of divine purpose lingered, whispering of destinies intertwined, and the question arose anew: what unfolding truth about God's redemptive plan rested within the fabric of Job's suffering, to be unveiled in the chapters yet to come? Then the Lord spoke again, his voice like rolling thunder, reverberating through Job's very being. "Job, have you now grasped the depths of my design and the breadth of my kingdom? Is your heart now ready to bear witness to truth greater than your trials?" Job trembled, for he sensed an invitation to behold realms beyond his understanding. "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening," he breathed, yearning for wisdom. "Lift your gaze, Job," the Lord commanded gently. "Consider the eagle that soars above, glimpsing the winds of the heavens. Is it by your wisdom that the swift is established? Are the paths of the sea not known to me?" Job 39 verse 27, NIV, Elihu, filled with awe, interjected, "Great is our God, Job. He orchestrates the heavens and the earth, his hand has crafted all that is seen and unseen. We are but vessels of his narrative, instruments of his glory." As the sun broke forth into a brilliant dawn, illuminating the earth with fresh light, Job's vision was renewed, and he beheld the tapestry of life stitched together by God's omnipotent hand. "Indeed, Lord, all creatures are a testament to your might and wisdom," he declared. "I see now that I am part of this vast design, yet I am humbled by my insignificance. Recognize, Job," the Lord continued, "that every creature, even the Leviathan, serves the great purposes of my plan. You endure the trials not in vain, but as testimony to resilience born from abiding faith." The weight of his words settled upon Job like the tender touch of a calming hand upon troubled waters. "Will you trust me, Job?" the Lord challenged, "even in your unanswered questions? Will your heart not turn to praise, despite your afflictions? I have sculpted the mountains and carved the valleys, and, bestowed upon you, is the divine truth that I shall restore you. With every tear, my soul is drawn closer to you, O God," Job replied, his heart a conflagration of hope ablaze with remembrance of God's steadfast love. "For I now understand that my sorrow journeys with your mercy." The shadow of despair illuminates the very sanctuary of faith. "Indeed, Job," the Lord affirmed, "what fills your heart in trial mirrors the hope of those who walk in my light. Your pain shall transform into purpose, and you shall be a beacon unto your brethren. Your story shall not just bear witness to my power, but to my grace evident in the redemption I shall weave through your suffering." As the wind softened and the sun ascended high above the hills, Job gazed into the distance, where the shadows of his past began to lift. It was as though scales fell from his eyes, revealing the bright vision of what was yet to come. "Lord," he spoke with newfound strength, "let my life be a testament to the turning of your seas and the unfolding of your sovereign plan." Yet, among the echoes of God's declaration, a curious anticipation lingered in the atmosphere. What further revelation awaited in the depths of his trials? What divine purpose lay in the heart of every suffering soul? A legacy of faith that would transcend generations, revealing the unshakable foundations of God's promise. Then the Lord spoke again, for the silence of the morning held its breath in reverence. "Job, have you considered the shadows that cloak this world? A time of trial is not merely a season of sorrow, but a stage for my glory, where faith is forged like steel in the fire." Job, his heart reverberating with the weight of God's presence, clung to every word. "Lord, guide me. In my affliction, help me perceive the essence of your truth." "Indeed," the Lord declared, "your understanding shall bloom even amidst the dust of despair. Do you not see how the flowers grow from barren ground? From the depths of suffering, life arises, and in my hands, I hold the keys to transformation." As the air filled with the fragrance of renewal, Elihu stood beside Job, his voice a reflection of the divine resonance. "Job, every trial is like rough stone shaped by the craftsman's hand. Your space of refinement will yield not loss, but the precious gem of faith, shining forth as a testament to the enduring heart." Job, let his gaze be drawn ever higher, for he perceived the majestic canvas that the Almighty was painting. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Lord, let my suffering produce a harvest of righteousness, that others may behold your glory in my journey." "Then listen, Job," the Lord urged. "Your adversities shall not define you, rather, through them, you shall grasp the depths of my love and purposes. Remember the potter, who fashions the clay, shaping vessels of honor from mere dust. It is I who bend the stalwart and heal the broken, forging paths in barren wilderness." A rumble of thunder echoed in the sky, as lightning illuminated the heavy clouds above. Job's spirit soared, drawn by the gravity of God's grace. He felt as though he had been drawn into the very heart of creation, where the whispers of eternity collided with the mysteries of his soul. "Your friends may not comprehend the journey you must undertake," the Lord spoke softly, "but I have set before you a legacy. Each tear you shed waters the seeds of hope in those who witness your faith. You shall be as Joseph, sent ahead to prepare for those who will follow. Through your pain, I will weave a tapestry of redemption that will extend far beyond this generation. Lord, Job's voice trembled with fervor, I yearn to be a conduit of your mercy, a living epistle read by many. Your promises echo through the corridors of time, and I wish to be part of this divine narrative. Thus you shall be, the Lord affirmed, a profound joy coursing through his words. For every trial is a chapter that shall not be silenced, and through each moment of your anguish, a greater purpose emerges. You are not alone, for my spirit remains with you, guiding and comforting. Just as the sun rises after the darkest night, so too shall your trials give way to days of joy. With renewed vigor, Job lifted his hands toward the heavens, feeling the warmth of the sun's embrace upon his skin. Each heartbeat echoed the pulse of creation, and he understood that from his struggle would emerge not just survival, but vibrant life. But as he basked in this divine revelation, a question arose deep within him, one that stirred the depths of his heart. How would this promise unfold? What could possibly arise from the ashes of such profound suffering? With a holy anticipation, he reflected, what revelations would follow the path of his pain, altering the course of lives yet unnumbered, revealing not just the depths of God's mercy, but a truth that would resonate through the ages. Then the Lord continued, as the clouds gathered above with a promise of rain. Job, your heart seeks understanding, and I shall reveal to you the wonders hidden in the fabric of your trials. Do you recall how the Israelites wandered in the wilderness, unknowing of the land flowing with milk and honey that awaited them? So too shall your path unfold in due time. Job listened, his heart pounding like the distant thunder. Lord, lead me. I yearn to grasp the purpose of these trials, to see beyond the veil of my suffering. Behold, Job, the Lord responded, even as I led the faithful through desolation, I am here with you in this desolate place. Your cries rise to me like incense, and your anguish does not fall upon deaf ears. Strengthen your heart, for I am mindful of you, the dawn will break over your sorrow. As Elihu stood ever closer, a fierce determination lit within him. Job, think on the moments when the Lord revealed himself. Was it not in the stillness or amid the storm that you sensed his presence most fiercely? This moment is not your end, but a threshold to greater insight. The winds began to shift, and the first drops of rain splattered upon the parched earth. Job felt them on his face, refreshment after a long drought. Lord, let this rain be a sign of your renewal. I submit my heart to your will, as clay to the potter's hand. Shape me as you desire. And the Lord spoke again, his voice like the gentle falling rain. In your suffering lies the seed of your testimony. Just as I formed mankind from dust, I shall use your humbled state to manifest my glory. You are chosen, Job, not for despair, but for the joy that comes after the trials. Job nodded, his faith anchored deeper in the words of the Almighty. Then grant me wisdom to endure the journey ahead, Lord. I seek to comprehend, to live out the story you are writing through my pain. The rain poured forth, washing over Job's face, each droplet reverberating a truth. The lands would be nourished, life would awaken where once there was only barrenness. May my life serve as a vessel for the healing of others, Lord, Job cried out. Let my trials be a beacon of hope to the broken. Verily, Job, you will see it, the Lord replied with unfurling grace. The foundations of the earth are shaped through the trials of my servants. You may experience not only your own redemption but also inspire generations to walk in faith. So shall it be written, your legacy shall ring in the hearts of many. Eagerly, Job began to perceive the profound impact of his journey. He envisioned the generations yet unborn, their feet, like his, stepping along the paths of righteousness forged by pain and perseverance. Each trial was a stone laid in their way, guiding them toward the promise of restoration. As the storm darkened the horizon, and the rain fell heavier, Job sensed a stirring within him, a beckoning to deeper revelations yet unveiled. What, Lord, lies ahead for me still? In this chapter of my life, what further truths do you wish to reveal? Seek ye the answers, Job, the Lord responded, his presence enveloping him like a warm embrace. For the time shall come when you will stand not only as a witness of my grace but as a herald of the truth that transcends this time of suffering. You are on the precipice of discovery where mercy saturates the mind, and the promises of redemption are unveiled in the light of my glory. In Job's heart ignited a fervor, yet the mysteries compressed upon him like a weight. When would this promise unfold? What new horizons awaited him, veiled in the urgency of divine purpose? Such was the call of his journey, a profound echo of God's sovereign plan, still unfolding, beckoning toward the revelation that awaited him. In the tumult of Job's heartache, the storm had drawn back, revealing clearer skies, a promise woven through his suffering, whispering of greater truths yet to be realized. The rain of renewal washed over him, each droplet beckoning him toward a deeper understanding of the Almighty's purpose. The Lord, in his infinite wisdom, had been shaping Job's heart through trials, for redemption was not without cost. That as Job sat absorbed in reflection, he felt a stirring within, a revelation overshadowing his former lamentations. The voice of the Lord broke upon him again, rich with sovereign authority. Job, do you now see the purpose behind your pain? Each trial has not only refined you but has prepared you for a legacy that will resonate through generations. Awed by the profound words, Job nodded, realizing that his faith was not merely to endure shadows, but to illuminate paths for those who would follow. His suffering had birthed a testimony, woven intricately into God's eternal narrative, the beauty arising from ashes, a living testimony to all who would witness it. Lord, he breathed, as truth unfurled before him, my anguish has not been in vain. My heart, once engulfed in sorrow, now holds the promise of hope, not just for me but for the world around me. Can it be that my journey through despair will guide others to your light? Indeed, dear Job, the Lord replied, his voice like a calming presence, your life shall serve as a beacon, a lighthouse guiding souls lost in the tempest back to the shores of faith and promise. You shall teach them that though they walk through the valley of vinegar, they need not fear, for I am with them. With each revelation, Job felt burdens lift and new strength surging within him. His doubts began to fade like mist before the rising sun, replaced by a resolute faith that beat within him. I shall not grow weary, O Lord. Empower me to share the story of your grace with those who suffer in silence. Let my trials echo with the hope of your redemption, reframing sorrow into blessings far beyond our comprehension. In this sacred moment, the Spirit of God enveloped Job, stirring the very essence of his being with fervor. Elihu, witnessing the transformation unfolding before him, spoke with conviction, Glorious Job, let us go forth together. Your newfound voice will carry the assurance of your Redeemer through every heart that yearns for understanding. Your steadfast faith shall be the seed planted in the hearts of the faint of spirit. Job, attuned to God's call, lifted his hands in surrender, exclaiming, Lord, let every aspect of my life reflect your glory. Let my sufferings not just be a chapter of regret, but a thrilling saga of victory, showcasing your unwavering love. As the skies opened, and the rain continued to pour, washing away remnants of despair, a transformation engulfed the land. Job's heart became a vessel for grace, and he understood, through bearing witness to the restoration of life both in himself and in those around him, he would fulfill the purpose God had intricately designed. Then came the day when Job was restored. His fortunes renewed, his family gathered once more around the table, a reflection of blessing and grace. The voices of laughter, the joy that bounced off the walls of his home were echoes of God's mercy fulfilled. But, above all, it was the recognition that his trials had prepared him for this very moment, his spirit enriched and empowered to lead others toward the hope he had discovered within, and so it was, Job's legacy grew, a tale chronicled through ancient scrolls, not simply of anguish endured, but of glorious redemption revealed. Each word that flowed from his lips ignited faith, reverberated hope among mourners, and illuminated paths for those lost in darkness. His life became a participatory testament echoing through time, bearing witness to the depths of God's love and the heights of his mercy. In a powerful declaration, Job called to those assembled, Hear me. My Redeemer lives, and in the tapestry of our lives, even amidst despair, fabric of divine purpose is woven. Trust in him, for in every sorrow, there exists a symphony of hope waiting to be unveiled. Thus, Job's story transcended the pages of history, becoming a chorus sung among the faithful, and undying testament of God's promises fulfilled, reflecting his nature and character for generations yet unborn. And now, dear friends, it is time for you to spread the hope of Job's legacy. Share this powerful truth with others, for you are also part of this divine narrative. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and hear more incredible biblical stories that could change your life. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm. Comment your own reflections and how Job's journey has impacted your faith. Share instantly this message with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's transformative truth. Don't wait even one more second. The light of hope must shine forth to those who dwell in shadows. Together, we can witness God's greatness unfolding in our midst.